last week. So we're starting a little later to give a chance for those in Seattle if they want to join, and it shouldn't be Shabbos for them. And we'll see if how we continue this class. Maybe we'll just do it for the East Coast people, so we shouldn't have to stop the class totally. Okay, so we start as in every Motzaei Shabbos with the story of the Holy Baal Shem Tov. So again, if we're getting closer to the end of this series of this class in the winter, I'll allow myself two stories of the Baal Shem Tov before we start the Halacha. So the story goes like this: that we learned about Reb Zev Kitzur was
Deepen was first domino. Epstein, bing, bing, bang, bang.
We learned that the Zev Kitzur, who is the student of the Baal Shem Tov, so he was once instructed by the Holy Baal Shem Tov going forward to Rosh Hashanah. We know that the 25th tonight is the 25th of Adar, which is connected to the 25th of El, because there's an argument when is Rosh Hashanah. So, and when was the world created? So the Baal Shem Tov asks Reb Zev Kitzur and says, I want you to blow the shofar and prepare all the kavanot, all the intentions, according to the Kabbalistic teachings, according to the Baal Shem Tov's teachings. Make sure you're very familiar with all the kavanot you have to have before you blow the shofar. I'm trusting you to be ready and prepared to blow the shofar properly comes this year Rosh Hashanah with knowing all the kavanas, etc. So Reb Zev Kitzur was very excited and very honored that the Baal Shem Tov trusted him with this very important mitzvah of blowing the shofar, not just in the shul, but in the shul of the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov was going to be listening to his shofar. So Reb Zev Kitzur immediately, hello Dr. Susan, immediately goes and prepares the whole month of El. He's preparing the kavanas. What are the intentions that you have to have? What thinkings and machshavas and thoughts you have to have before you blow the shofar? And not only that, he decides to make sure that he doesn't forget them. Maybe he's going to be under pressure, standing in front of the Baal Shem Tov, so he writes them down and he really studies them, prepares. Comes the morning of, and he comes to shul, and it's time for him to blow the shofar. So he reaches into his left pocket, is where he placed his notes, because he's allowed to carry in Rosh Hashanah. And he takes out the notes. He looks, and the notes are not in his pocket. He checks his right pocket, his pants pocket. He checks everywhere, and he gets very panicked. He can't remember he can't find the notes. He knows for sure he put them in his pocket. And now, under the stress, he totally forgot all the kavanas. He can't even remember what he studied over and over again the whole month. Like happens to sometimes people when they get overwhelmed. And he totally went blank. He was a total blank. And he doesn't know what to do. He's standing there. Everyone's looking. The Baal Shem Tov is looking. Everyone's waiting for him to blow the shofar. So he can't hold up the crowd. You're not allowed to. It's a stress on the community. So with a broken heart and with tears and really feeling embarrassed, he just makes the blessing. And he blows the shofar, feeling like he's blowing like the most simple person would be blowing a trumpet. He can't even have the most basic kavanas, and he's so torn apart, knowing that he let down the Baal Shem Tov. Hey, Barbara, letting the Baal Shem Tov down by not blowing the shofar properly and preparing it properly as the Baal Shem Tov had entrusted him and asked him. So after the blowing of the shofar, he immediately goes to the corner, and he's just so embarrassed and he's feeling so horrible and he's crying. The Baal Shem Tov comes over to him after the davening, and he says, Reb Zev, such a beautiful shofar blowing you did. And Reb Zev turned to the Baal Shem Tov and with tears he said, Holy Baal Shem Tov, I forgot all the kavanas. So the Baal Shem Tov said like this. He said, we know that the tradition is that in heaven there's many gates and many doors, and there's many keys, and different keys open up different doors. So when you were preparing the kavanas, you were trying to get yourself one key and a second key and a third key, so we could open all the doors, so we could go all the way in, and our tefillah, our prayers go straight to Hashem. But there's one key, which is the master key. The master key opens every door, and the master key is a broken heart. And when you forgot the kavanas, and you were so broken about it, you attained the master key. And therefore, when we daven and we heard the shofar, you opened all the gates straight to the Kisei HaKavod, to the Yom Hadin and the Day of Judgment. And Baruch Hashem, mission fulfilled. Thank you very much. So that's the first story. We want to say a story of the Baal Shem Tov. The second story, more connected to this week's parsha, which is a mamish, a very powerful story of the Ksav Sofer. The Ksav Sofer was the son of the famous Chassam Sofer, or Moshe Sofer. He lived in Pressburg under the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and the famous Chassam Sofer, who has the yeshivas Chassam Sofer. Today, there's a Chassidus that follows the teachings of the Chassam Sofer from his family, called the Erloi Chassidim. So the Ksav Sofer was his son, a big Rav and a Rosh Hashiva. And do we know that both the Chassam Sofer and the Ksav Sofer had to deal with very difficult decrees that were being decreed against the family of the Jewish people, especially about education. He wanted to make the education to be secular education, and he fought very hard against it. So when he was able to be victorious against the decree, so he made a big suda, big gathering, and he called in all his colleagues and all the great Rosh Hashivas and Rabbanim. Never such a gathering happened in the area of Pressburg, that so many big, great giants came together for gathering. And so when the Baal Shem Tov when the Ksav Sofer gathers everyone together and they make this big meal, so the Ksav Sofer, after everyone was speaking, Divrei Torah and everything, the Ksav Sofer gets up and he says, I want to show you something that I'm quite certain has never been shown before. And everyone's waiting in anticipation. What is the Ksav Sofer going to show? And the Ksav Sofer reaches into his pocket and he takes out a silver coin. And he says, ladies and gentlemen, Rabbanim, Moirei v'Rabbaisai, distinguished guest, I want you to know that what I'm holding in my hand is a coin that was given, that was a chatzi shekel, that was a half shekel, that was given in the times of the temple, like we're learning about now, for a dedication for the needs of the Beis Hamikdash. And this was passed down from my father, who was passed down from generations. And I don't believe there's another coin like this in the world, which is actually a half shekel that was given in the Beis Hamikdash. And they start passing it around. He lets everyone look at it, and everyone's touching it and discussing its weight and its value and the halachic. And everyone's fascinated. Here's a half coin that was given in the Beis Hamikdash. And all of a sudden, in the midst of everything, they realize that the coin's missing. Everyone's talking, and all of a sudden one person says, I want to look at the coin. It's gone. And he searched the entire room, and they can't find the coin. And the Ksav Sofer is panicked. He's pale. He's white. He says, listen, God forbid that I should accuse anyone, but maybe under the happening, someone by mistake misunderstood it and put it in their pocket and thought it was regular change. I must insist that everyone empties their pockets. I mamish must insist. So everyone agrees. Of course, that's the only thing we could do. I mean, the coin can't just disappear. All of a sudden, in the back of the room, there was the greatest, most distinguished Rosh Hashiva, who was a friend of the Chassam Sofer, the father of the Ksav Sofer, and he calls out. He says, "No, I don't agree. We have to wait 15 minutes." No, Ksav Sofer says, "Okay, we'll wait 15 minutes. Maybe the coin will show up." They wait 15 minutes. At the end of 15 minutes, the Ksav Sofer is getting a little more agitated, and he says, "Okay, listen, everyone, please. You have to empty your pockets." The old Rosh Hashiva calls out again and says, "No, I must insist that we wait another 15 minutes. Just hold on." Ksav Sofer is visibly disturbed and stressed out. But in respect to the great rabbi, he says, "Okay, we'll wait another 15 minutes." After the second 15 minutes is complete, he says, "Okay, no more delays. Please, everyone, empty their pockets. This is hard enough as it is. It's embarrassing, but please, we have to do this." So with tears in his eyes, the Rosh Hashiva says, "I'm pleading with you. We have a relationship with your father for 40 years. I'm asking you to wait an additional 15 minutes." And now already he's getting steers from the other people at the banquet, other Rosh Hashivas giving him wondrous or even maybe angry glares. What's going on over here? And who knows what's going through their minds? And the Ksav Sofer reluctantly says, "Okay, we'll wait an additional third 15 minutes." Before the third 15 minutes is up, and the whole time this Rosh Hashiva is crying and praying, everyone's wondering what is going on. All of a sudden, the attendant of the Ksav Sofer comes running in and he says, "Oh, I found the coin." Everyone's shocked. They look at it, they examine it. It's the coin. So the Ksav Sofer says, "Explain immediately. Where did the coin come from?" He says, "Well, while everyone was checking the coin, I figured it's a good time to clean up. So I took off all the tablecloths and I was brushing everything in the garbage. And by mistake, I brushed the coin. And as soon as I heard the coin was missing, I didn't want to say anything. But I ran to the garbage or to wherever the place where I threw all the stuff for the Suda. And I went through everything and I finally found the coin. So now everyone turns to look at this old Rosh Hashiva. What was going on with him? Why was he so insistent and almost panicking about not checking their pockets? So he says, Moira Rabbaisai, extinguished gentlemen, I must say like this. The old Rosh Hashiva says, because of the great celebration of the event, I decided to bring a special treasure for my family to show and showcase at this event. And when the Ksaf Sofer took out his coin, I didn't want to ruin the moment, so I kept what I had private to me. But then when the Ksaf Sofer was lost his coin, I thought it would draw suspicion. Why? He reaches his hand into his pocket and he pulls out an identical half coin, chatzi shekel, and he says, I also have a half shekel for my family. I didn't want to ruin the moment, but I knew that if they would ask me to empty my pockets, people would suspect that I have stolen or pocketed the half coin. And I didn't want to, and I davened and I prayed to save me and my family of embarrassment. And Hashem, Baruch Hashem, sent to Yeshua and they found the coin. So now you could all see that actually there's two coins, not one. All right, Laila, that's the stories. Now we're going to go to a little bit of learning. There was an alarm that went off. So in case I have to, a warning, an alarm may go off in case I have to leave. Okay, hold on. Okay, so we're learning the laws of tefillah Shemoneh Esrei, the laws of the Amidah. So hold on, let's see if we can get the text in the right spot. Here we go. So we're on we're on law. I think we're holding law 10. So law 10, it says like this. Tzarech lamoid b'fanav l'tzad Eretz Yisrael. When you're standing to daven, we face Eretz Yisrael. Shinemer, as it says in the verse, v'hispadalu eilecha derech artzam. I pray to you, to Hashem, through the land, which is Eretz Yisrael. V'chavin gam kein kineged Yerushalayim. Obviously when you're far away, it's hard to say Yerushalayim specifically, but you should try to have intention that you're praying towards Yerushalayim specifically within Eretz Yisrael, u'keneged hamikdash, and directly towards the Holy Temple, u'keneged beis kodshei hakadashim, and in the temple itself towards the Holy of Holies, where the Ark was. L'chein anu b'medinaseinu sheyoshvim b'ma'arov shel Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, he says, those who dwell in the West, right? He was the author of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, lived in Europe. So if you're west of Eretz Yisrael, and anywhere west of Eretz Yisrael, which includes today the United States, tzrichim la'amed bifanim l'tzad mizrach. We face mizrach, east. If we're west of Eretz Yisrael, we face east towards Eretz Yisrael. So you have to remember that's why it's not mizrach everywhere. Mizrach is just this, because most of the Jews lived in Europe, so everyone was davening mizrach, and that included North Africa, which was kind of not exactly mizrach, but it was also a northeast a little bit. But again, we go exactly to figure where would be the exact line, a beeline straight towards Kodshei Kodashim. But traditionally, if you're in the west, you're davening east. Laila mizrach mamish, not exactly east. Elitzad kern mizrachis droimus. So depends if you're north. If you're in the north of Europe, or let's say Seattle, so that you would be, or even New York, you'd be davening southeast, because a little east, but in this a little south, because you're north of Eretz Yisrael. If you do a beeline just east, you'd be hitting higher plains. Ayin Taz u'Magen Avraham b'Shem Alavush. For more information, check into the Taz, which we've learned about the Magen Avraham in the name of the Levush. What about those who live north of Eretz Yisrael, let's say Syria, etc.? It's Pnei Madam, then they would daven south. Vayoshim in Mizrach, and if you live in the east, let's say there were still communities then in Baghdad, in Iraq, Iran, etc. Till today, there's communities in Iran. So they daven Pnei Lamarav, they daven west. Vayoshim Midoram, if you live in the south, my sons, both of my boys, Baruch Hashem, are now in South Africa. So they are south of Eretz Yisrael, mamash, almost directly. So if Yayoshim, Bedorim, if you're in the south, B'nei Matzafon, so you face north. So I mean, the basic gist we get that wherever you are, you're facing towards Eretz Yisrael with the kavana of Yerushalayim, Beis Hamikdash, Kodesh Kodesh. Nimtza Kol Yisrael Painim Tefillah L'Makom Echad, meaning to say that everyone's davening to the same direction, just depending where you're standing. The Hainu Neged Yerushalayim Beis Kodesh Kodesh, to try to focus, to face Yerushalayim, the Holy of Holies. Shesham, why do we face the Holy of Holies in Yerushalayim? Shesham Shar Yerushalayim, that's where the gates of heaven are. Shekol HaTfilas Oilis Derech Sham, all the prayers go through the Holy of Holies. L'chein Nikra Beis Hamikdash Talpiois. So it says that's why the temple is called Talpiois. What does it mean? As it's written, Kimigdal David Tzavarech Boni LeTalpiois. Your neck is like the Tower of David, built magnificently. It's like a hill, because the Beis Hamikdash is on a hill, that all the mouths are facing there. Why? Because talpiot means, you could divide the word talpiot to mean talpiot. Those who are a little familiar with Eretz Yisrael, there's actually an area in Jerusalem called Talpiot, named after this idea, which is tal. Tal is like a little hill. Piois, which the mouths face towards this hill. Shetel shekola piois painim elav. Im, he continues. Im ispal b'makom she'en yochel l'chav mitzag shekeneged Eretz Yisrael. What happens if you cannot face Eretz Yisrael for whatever reason? Yichav liba la'av sh'shmaim, have intention that wherever you're standing, you're davening towards Hashem. That Hashem should listen to your tefillos. Shnemer v'hispalalu el Hashem, they pray towards God. B'moment keneged safan oidorim, v'niskar be'emtza Shemoneh Esrei, she'eni oimid keroi. What happens if you start Shemoneh Esrei, and this happens sometimes all the time, where you just place yourself wrong. You think either Mizrach is that way, or you just forget, for whatever reason, you're just not standing in the right spot. And you remember in the middle of the Shemoneh Esrei, should you pivot during the davening? V'niskar be'emtza Shemoneh Esrei, she'eni oimid keroi. And you see that the middle of Shemoneh Esrei, that you're not standing correctly. So lo yakir raglov, don't move your feet to reposition yourself to be facing Mizrach. Aliyat the pun of the Mizrach, try as much as possible. Obviously, if you're facing Mamish 180, it's more difficult. But try at least to turn your face a little bit, as much as possible towards east, which would be towards the Beis Hamikdash, if you're in the Europe, etc., depending on where you are when you daven. What happens if it's impossible? Or you're totally facing, like I said before, your back towards the east? You should continue davening as you were, with having the intention of Kodesh Kodashim. Okay, this again, I wanted to just say something that we learned in our halacha class last week in Shabbos. That just because the sefer that we're learning is called Kitzur Shulchan Aruch doesn't mean it's just a light language beginner's version of the law. It's actually a tremendous work what the Kitzur has done, which is to be able to take the huge Shulchan Aruch and put them into a Kitzur, a short version. But it doesn't mean that we take lightly any of the wording. So we see clearly that he says two things here. He says on top that if you, for whatever reason, you can't daven to Mizrach, then you should have kavanah that you're davening towards Hashem. And then here he says that if you realize you're facing the wrong direction, so you should have kavanah that you're facing the Kodesh Kodashim. Why doesn't he just say that if you're facing the west, means you're facing the wrong direction? Let's say you're in New York or in Seattle, instead of facing east, you're facing the opposite direction. Why don't you just think that you're davening towards Hashem? I think the answer would be because once you started to daven thinking you're davening towards the Beis Hamikdash, here you've made a mistake. It means when you started to daven, you wanted to face the Beis Hamikdash. So now you realize that you're not facing the base of English. You made a mistake. The first case is talking about when you know initially you can't face the base of English for whatever reason. So then you have a kavanah to daven towards Hashem. But if you went initially to try to face the base of English and you made a mistake, so then you have the kavanah. You should try to have the intention as if you're facing the base of English. But lo yakir raglav, hold on, Aaron. Don't move your feet. V'chein imu mispal b'makom sheish tzuros b'mizrach yispal tzadacher avshani mizrach. And then there's also, this is an important law, that if you're davening in a way, in a place where everything's right, I mean, you know where Mizrach is, you know where the direction is, but there's what is he, pictures, he says, but that would disrupt, that would make it not possible for you to face the Mizrach, and you have to face another way. So face the other way, thinking that you want to daven towards the base of Mikdash. Aaron, you wanted to ask something, and then we'll go to Rebecca.
Yeah. So the question is that, let's just say, and now I have two questions. How long can you wait, postpone it? But in sometime it could be short for sometimes and longer for others. But if you would wait, you could face the right way.
That's an excellent question. I mean, let's see if it touches on the footnotes. If not, I'll give an answer. But next question.
That's it. That was my two questions.
Oh,
How
okay.
long can you wait? How long should you postpone it so you can stand in the right way? And should you wait at all?
Okay. Excellent. Let's put a pin on that for a second. Yes, Rebecca.
What if you're gonna face Mizrach, you're gonna face other people, like people sitting, working, moving around. Like, isn't it better to face a wall or face a different direction?
That's what it seems to. Yes, it seems clearly from the halach from over here. When he says over here that you can't daven to Mizrach, you should have a kavanah towards Hashem. It's Rabbi talking about something like that. It's such a scenario. Let's see the footnotes, but it's such a scenario. So if it's a distraction, I mean, standing in front of people that are a distraction, not like in the bishul. In the shul, it's very possible that everyone's in the front line, right? You have many rows of people in front of you. But that's not a distraction. Everyone's davening. But if
No,
it's
I don't. I mean,
I
like,
don't know, you're standing in the airport and people are standing right there. So yes, obviously it's just like you wouldn't daven in front of pictures, you wouldn't daven in such a scenario.
let's say, I share an office with a coworker. So if she were to face Mizrach when she davens, she's gonna be facing me while I'm sitting at my desk. So I mean, is she supposed to daven like facing Mizrach, because she's gonna be facing me while I'm sitting and working?
No, no. So yeah, so in theory, she should turn. She should try to either go to the side, or if she can't, to turn a bit to the side. Yes, that is
Yeah,
correct.
she faces a different way. I just wanted to know what we're
Yeah,
supposed to do. Okay,
yeah.
thanks.
So he says, why is the author talking about where he is, which is he says to daven southeast or east towards the south a little bit, because the author of the Kitzur lived in Hungary. The same rule is applicable to in America as well. Okay, America is a little bit, not all of America is as north as northern places in America. So I mean, today we all Baruch Hashem have our phones that, but if you have the right app, has direction of the Kodesh Kodashim. I remember it was unique before the phones. I not always had the phones correct actually, but before the phones, they used to have they had a siddur. I remember seeing it once in the Golan Heights for Shabbos that had a little compass on the siddur itself. That it was a siddur for Eretz Yisrael, and it had mamish literally wherever you stood, it had like a little, Kodesh Kodashim. It really showed you exactly where you have to be standing. So you have a little actual compass on your siddur. But that I don't think those are around anymore. I haven't seen that in a long time. Okay, 34, he says that the hill to which the mouths turn. Say tal means hill, and pios means mouth. Thus, tal pios means the hill to which all the mouths turn. So, again, there's a neighborhood in Yerushalayim called Tal Piot. 35. So we didn't address Aaron's question. So I'm going to say like this: that if you can't daven, I don't think you should go past this man. Means if you're trying to daven within this man, and this is your time of davening, so don't wait and try. Then just like for instance, I mean today on the planes also it's difficult to know. But I mean if you're flying to Eretz Yisrael, so you just face straight. Pretty much you have it's a good way to figure that you're facing towards Kodesh Kodashim. But there are times that you can't wait. We're not talking about when you're driving in a car. because that's another halacha that we've learned about, that when you're not ready, where you're in a situation you can't daven or you can't stop, what do you do? We'll get to that. But we're talking about where you want to just face. I would say you could wait as long as it would be within the time frame of when you want to be davening. If your person's davening nates, so I wouldn't not daven nates because you want to daven nates. Not, you don't have. I mean, nates you could daven within the Zman tefillah, which is not nates. But if you're makbid to daven nates, but you can't find the mizrach or whatever the reason is, then I would not wait. Okay, let's do one more halacha, and then we'll stop the class here. In the Shemoneh Esrei, we bow, we knee and bow, right? Because we know that we bend our knees and then we bow down. We do it 4 times in the Shemoneh Esrei. We do it in the beginning and the end of the first blessing, which is called Magen Avraham. And by Modim, that we do Kriya and Bricha. And let's get to put Moedim on a pin in a second. Baruch, when you say the word Baruch, so then you Kaireya, you bend your knees. Birkov, your knees. Ata Mishtachve, so you bend with Baruch, and then you bow with the word Ata. So Baruch Ata. Kolkach, and how much should you bow? How far down should you bow? Ad Shahaksharim Shal Chulias Ashidra Boltim Vegam Roisha Yaakov. So he says, okay, every person knows how strict you have to be, but just what he says over here is until the spinal column protrude, and you must also bow your head, not just your back, so your head also down. So you show it, you see a little bit of your spine sticking up. So you say Baruch Atah, the next word is Hashem, right? Zoykef Menachas, you straighten up, not too fast, but slowly. Al Shem Shenemar Hashem Zoykef Kefufim. Why do we stand straight as we say the name of Hashem? Because there's a verse that supports that says that Hashem Zokef straightens the one who's bent. Also by Modim, we knee and bow. Okay, our custom is we don't knee by Modim, we just bow by Modim, and we knee by the end of the blessing. So we would only knee 3 times. If we say Modim and Achnalach, Shatu Hashem, and you stand up, you straighten up. You shouldn't bow too much. Don't bow until your mouth reaches your waist. So that's not, it's inappropriate. That's you're acting in a way of kind of showing off a bit. If you're sick or you're elderly and it's difficult to bow like that, so just a little bit of bowing your head is enough. And it's forbidden to bow additionally at other brachas, either at the beginning or the end. We do bow one more time, which is we bow when we say the Oisei Shalom. We become bowing outwards. So that's one more time that we actually bow. Let's see 36. Let's see the footnotes over here. The bracha to which ends with the words Magen Avram is the conclusion of the first bracha. So he's saying, what is the end of the first bracha that we bow, we knee and bow? Is the words Magen Avram, which completes the first blessing. The bracha ending with the words Hatov, Simcha Ulacha No'el Lahoidais. This concludes Moedim. So that's the last bowing and kneeing when we say the Moedim. When we say Hatov, Simcha Ulacha No'el Lahoidais. 38. The Shulchan Aruch states that one should straighten up as he says Hashem. Okay, that's what he says here. 39, 40. Our custom, however, is not to bend the knees when saying Modim. So he quotes what our custom is, Chabad's custom is, I'm not sure if others have different, that we do not knee by Modim. So we knee by the first and the beginning of first and second blessing. The beginning and end of the first blessing. We knee at the end of Modim. We don't knee at the beginning of Modim. We just bow without the knee. 40 is, may God guard my tongue from evil. So similarly, when we're saying Modim, bend your bow and knee, and 41 is the next one. Okay. He talks about the bowing at the end, next halacha, which we'll learn B'ez Hashem next week. Any questions before we complete the class? Excellent. Well, Shavua Tov. Thank you for hanging in there, guys. We're starting a half hour late, and we'll see we'll try to carry this class as long as we can. Laila Tov, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Shavua tov, everybody.
Shavua